The sound came before anyone knew what it was. A deep, rhythmic thump rolled across my parents' farm in Ohio, and every head turned toward the sky. My father froze in the middle of a speech. My sister dropped her drink. More than 40 relatives stood, staring as a red and white helicopter descended into the field behind the house. When the door opened, a young woman stepped out wearing a flight suit and carrying a pilot helmet. That woman was my daughter, the same daughter my family once called ordinary, the same daughter they said wasn't worth investing in. But to understand why that moment left everyone speechless, you need to know what happened 7 years earlier. I'm Claire, a single mother and accountant from Ohio. When my daughter Ava was 4 years old, I started a college fund for her. $200 a month. Sometimes more when I worked overtime, no. Vacations, no fancy clothes. No luxuries, just 14 years of sacrifices and deposits by the time Ava turned 18. That account held $47,000. Every dollar represented a promise. There was only one problem. When I opened the account at 19, the bank required a co-signer. My father Harold signed the paperwork, and I never removed his name. Ava wasn't the loudest kid in school. She wasn't class president or valedictorian. She was quiet, focused, and obsessed with helicopters. While other kids watched cartoons, she watched aviation videos. While others collected toys, she built model aircraft. She never talked about her dream. She simply worked toward it in silence. Then one day, my nephew Ethan got accepted into Yale. The family celebrated like he'd won the lottery. Week later, my father called a family meeting. He sat at the head of the table and explained that Ethan needed money for tuition. Then he looked directly at me. The amount he needed was exactly $47,000, my daughter's entire college fund. I immediately said no, but my father wasn't asking. He was deciding. He looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. Ava is a good kid, but she's average. Ethan can change this family's future. I stood up and left. I thought the argument was over. I was wrong. The next morning, I opened my banking app. Balance zero. My father had withdrawn every penny. $47,000. Gone. I called him immediately. His response was simple. It's already been used for something important. Then my sister laughed and told me Ava would be fine, because some kids are just ordinary. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at 14 years of savings, records I didn't know what to say before I could speak. Ava looked at me and quietly said something that changed everything. I'll find another way. No anger. No tears, just confidence. And then she went upstairs and started working. Months passed. While the family bragged about Ethan attending Yale, Ava disappeared into applications, training programs, and scholarship opportunities. She woke up before sunrise, exercised every morning, studied constantly, and never complained about the money. One evening, I accidentally discovered what she'd been hiding: an ROTC scholarship application full. Tuition, living stipend, and guaranteed flight training. She had done everything herself, without asking anyone for help. A few months later, she got accepted. Full ride, every expense covered. The same future my father thought required $47,000 had just been earned for free. I never told my family. I let Ava keep building in silence. Meanwhile, Ethan struggled at Yale. The pressure became overwhelming. He wasn't failing because he lacked intelligence. He was failing because everyone expected him to carry the family's dreams. Eventually, he dropped out. The $47,000 was gone. And so was the plan my father sacrificed everything for. But Ava kept moving forward. She graduated near the top of her ROTC class, earned a degree in aviation, completed military flight training, and became a helicopter pilot. Every year, she moved closer to the dream she'd had since childhood. Eventually, she left the military and joined an emergency medical flight service. By 25, she was flying life-saving missions across Ohio. Then came the family reunion. The first one I'd attended in years. More than 40 relatives gathered on my parents' farm. My father stood up to give a speech. Even after everything, he still talked about how important it was to invest in the right people. That's when we heard the sound, thwap, thwap, thwap. Everyone looked up. A helicopter appeared over the trees and slowly descended into the field. The grass flattened beneath the rotor's plates. Flew off tables, conversation stopped when the door opened. Ava stepped out, calm, confident, successful. Everything they said she would never become. The crowd exploded with applause. Children ran toward the helicopter. Relatives stared in disbelief. My father walked over and tried to claim he'd always believed in her. But nobody bought it. Everyone knew the truth. Then Ava did something none of us expected. Instead of humiliating my sister, she handed her an envelope. Inside was a job application, a business card from a hiring manager, and a handwritten note. My sister read it and burst into tears. Years earlier, she'd called Ava ordinary. Now the very person she'd mocked was offering her a second chance. Not revenge, not humiliation, opportunity. That's what broke her as Ava and I walked back toward my car. I finally asked why she helped someone who had hurt her so badly. She smiled and looked out the window, because that's what they would have done. And I never wanted to become them. A few weeks later, my sister got the job, slowly rebuilt her life. Father never apologized, but he stopped talking about investments because everyone already knew who had been the better investment. Years ago, my family looked at two young people and decided only one was worth believing in. They were wrong. The quiet girl they ignored became a helicopter pilot. The money they stole never determined her future. The discipline she built did. And the lesson stayed with me forever. The people who judge your worth are often the people who understand it the least. Sometimes, the best response isn't revenge. Sometimes it's becoming so successful that the truth speaks for itself. And when that helicopter landed in the middle of that family reunion, it spoke louder than words ever could.